Welcome to Urban Caveman's webinar review, presented to you by Barefoot Youth Coach Borko. Before we touch our topic today, I would like to go over some GMO labels. Many of the processed foods available in our grocery stores today include genetically engineered ingredients. Despite the industry claims, there is no scientific consensus regarding the safety of these foods, and the weak approval process for new GMO crops relies solely on testing by the companies that want to sell the new crops. However, you're most likely to find GMOs hiding in ingredients list on processed food. Today, more than 93% of the corn and 94% of the soybean acres in states are GMOs. These crops sneak into our foods in places you might not expect, and they range from high fructose corn syrup to sugar, like sugar made from sugar beets. And they're made, the chemicals from soybeans are used as additives in processed foods. Additives included corn starch, cornmeal, corn syrup, glucose, dextrose, canola oil, cottonseed oil, soy flour, soy lecithin, and protein extracts. They're present in many processed foods. Are most likely to be derived from GMO crops. Also, vast majority of livestock is also fed with GMO crops. So right now, the most meaningful label on your food in terms of upholding specific government requirements is USDA Department of Agriculture or USDA Organic Seal. For product to be certified organic, it's required to meet specific standards, and those are that there should be no synthetic chemical inputs like fertilizer, pesticides, antibiotics, food additives, and there is no use of sewage sludge. Certified organic foods are not necessarily pesticides free. Certain pesticides are allowed. Organic crops cannot be genetically engineered or irradiated. Animals must eat organically grown feed without animal byproduct, and they cannot be treated with synthetic hormones or antibiotics. Animals must have access to outdoors and pasture, and they cannot be cloned. Use of the farmland has to be free of prohibited chemical inputs for 3 or more years. Non-GMO project verification. This is a third-party verification, and they only look into a product if it's not genetically modified. It is on a voluntary basis. So there is no talk about if this product has any synthetic pesticides, herbicides, any other means of production. They just look at the product if it's GMO or not GMO. So combination of this seal with the organic seal will be your golden standard. Country of origin labels, this is self-explanatory. It just states from where the food comes from, and right now is mandatory only for chicken, seafood, produce, and some nuts. Treated with irradiation, or a Radura symbol is this green symbol here. So in grocery store, food that has been irradiated must be labeled and marked with the Radura symbol. Unfortunately, this labeling policy does not apply to restaurants, schools, hospitals, or processed foods containing irradiated ingredients. That might be the reason why many of you never seen this symbol before, but that doesn't need to mean that you never been in touch with this kind of foods, especially if we talk about imported foods. USDA has a list of foods that have to go through mandatory irradiation. Only way to be pretty much 100% sure that your food didn't went through irradiation process is if you buy a whole food USDA certified organic food. And the list that goes for mandatory irradiation is next: beef and pork, lobster, shrimps, crab, fresh fruits and vegetables, poultry, seeds for sprouting like alfalfa sprouts, shell eggs, oysters, clam, mussels, scallops, spices and seasonings. So food labels that give us limited information are the next ones. USDA inspected. A USDA inspection seal means that your food meets certain quality standards and has been inspected by USDA employees or company employees under USDA supervision to rank its quality. All USDA inspected meats and poultry should have USDA seal of inspection and code for producing establishment. Meat and egg labels were with a grade such as a USDA grade A beef or jumbo eggs are graded based on a quality and size, not production methods. So this seal tells you nothing about a company's practice. Cage-free means that birds are raised without cages, but it tells you nothing about their other living conditions, such as cage-free eggs could come from birds raised indoors in overcrowded spaces at large factory farms. Free-range labels are regulated by USDA only for poultry produced for meat. It is not regulated for pigs, cattle, or eggs-producing chickens. Requirements are not that high. Poultry can use the label if the chicken had any access to outdoors each day for some unspecified period of time. It could be just a few minutes and does not assure that animal ever actually went outdoors to roam freely. Pasture raised or pastured means the animals spend at least some time outdoors on pasture, feeding on grass and forage. Grass-fed means that animals' primary source of food comes from grass or forage, not from grains such as corn. There are no uniform government standard on this label. Although 100% grass-fed or grass-fed and grass-finished means that animal isn't fed with crops or no antibiotics. That's a self-explanatory one. And if animal receives antibiotics for any reason, its meat, milk or eggs cannot be labeled as certified organic. No hormones. One more, very easy to understand. Federal law prohibits the use of hormones on hogs and poultry. Seafood labels are frequently misleading. For example, you might see organic labels on fish, but there is no US government standard on organic seafood certification. There is some third-party certifiers like eco labels, like this blue label that you see right now. You might see it in stores before. And it is important to know that fishing companies still have to follow the rules and regulations set in place by a government body, which should be ideally sustainable practice. Natural and naturally raised. According to USDA, natural meat and poultry products cannot contain artificial colors, artificial flavors, preservatives, or other artificial ingredients, and they should be minimally processed. Although there is no clarified standard what minimally processed means. Let's take a look at the word natural in the processed foods. You might not consider GMOs to be natural, but the term is barely regulated. A product labeled natural could well contain GMOs, since the FDA doesn't require some of the food additives to be listed on the label. All you might see is artificial flavor, artificial coloring, or a word natural. We're gonna close with some of certifications that have very little of meaning, and they pretty much don't mean anything if you don't have them with some other, let's call it, meaningful label. For example, I took two examples here, and that's humane raised and fair trade certification. Although there is a plenty of other ones. These are just example. So let's explain the next chart, and this is what I call Urban Caveman's Standard. We have 4 columns, starting from the first one, which we're gonna have our standards, ranging from caveman, urban, workaholic, and not recommended. And next thing we have meat, dairy, and eggs. Next column is fruit and veggies, and then on the end we have processed foods. So when you go to purchase and buy the foods, Caveman Standard will be staying with the foods that they're sourced from biodynamic farms. Now, if you live in a city, this is very tough to find and very rare to find, as biodynamic is the highest form of farming at this point, and it's a small scale farming, so these farms are pretty much not going into big store chains and store supplies. Next thing we have Urban Caveman Standard, and if you're looking for meat, dairy, and eggs, you will look for 100% grass-fed with USDA organic seal. If you're looking for fruits and veggies, you will go for USDA organic with non-GMO verified. And anything else from the processed foods, you will have combination of this USDA organic seal with 100% grass-fed, or grass-fed, grass-finished, as we talked earlier, or USDA organic with non-GMO verified. I don't think I ever seen all 3 of them together. Next standard is Urban Standard, and you will go for grass-fed or pasture-raised with organic certification for the meats, dairy, and eggs. Fruits and vegetables, you will look at the USDA organic. Processed foods, you will look at USDA organic certification seal. With the red letters, I have Workaholic Standard, and those are pretty much all other labels that don't contain any of the previous ones, but usually one safest way to go is go for the natural if you don't find any certified organic meats, dairy, or eggs. For fruits, vegetables will be non-GMO verified, and same goes for the processed foods. Not recommended standard is any food that you don't see any of these previous labels, and for a reason is not recommended, as pretty much there's a high chance of GMO foods or GMO ingredients in your purchase. In a nutshell, locally grown and raised foods in season should be your first choice. Second choice will be domestically grown foods, and last choice is imported ones. Certified organic versus non-certified ones will take dominance sometimes and might alter this choice. Some growers are not certified, but they're doing exceptional job, like Biodynamic Farms. And it's on you to get to know your community, get to know your farmers, and make smart choices. One of the greatest ways to start visiting your farmers market. This will be all from Urban Caveman's webinar review. Thank you for joining, and see you next time.